ice cream socials at each branch. Join us for a free ice cream sandwich courtesy of Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers while supplies last. Each branch will host an ice cream social from 1 to 2:30 p.m. with dates as follows. You can see a list of them there. Walters is on Saturday, June 27th. And then specific Walters updates tomorrow from 1 to 5. We will have a make and take Dino Bones craft. Come and construct dinosaur skeletons with cotton swabs. This is a drop-in craft for ages 4 to 11. And this Saturday is our monthly board game day from 11:30 to 2:30 p.m. All ages are welcome. We'll also host a family evening story time on Tuesday, June 9th from 6 to 6:30 p.m. And on Saturday, June 13th from 1 to 2 p.m. learn how a budget can help to achieve your financial goals with budgeting basics. You will leave with a budget template to get started or improve your budgeting journey. Tuesday, June 16th from 2:30 to 3 p.m. join a naturalist in Great Plains Nature Center for a story and an animal encounter. And then paint a mini terracotta pot and plant a small green friend to take home on Wednesday, June 17th from 5:30 to 6:45 p.m. It's a creative workshop perfect for beginners and plant lovers. All 15 spots are currently full, but keep an eye on wichitalibrary.org/events for cancellations if you wish to try and register. Stomp in for dinosaur stories, crafts, and games on June 23rd from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. and this is for ages 2 to 8. Archaeologists commonly find clay relics around the world. Come unearth your story and craft gifts, decorate, and then hang them in your car or at home to create a simple essential oil diffuser. Join us on June 24th from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. And last but not least, learn about creating, editing, and saving documents using basic formatting tools in Microsoft Word on Thursday, June 25th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. You must have basic keyboard and mouse skills. Call 316-261-8500 or visit wichitalibrary.org/events to register.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the dad?
Yes.
You know I love my park storybooks. And I was just wondering, because oftentimes the book doesn't have enough to fill all 15 stations.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 2 or 3 end up empty. I'm wondering if maybe consider in the future spacing the empties out and instead of empty, put in like, here's where you can find your nearest library. Here's a list of things you can do at your library. You know, now back to our story.
That's
You
not
know,
bad.
something to make some cross function.
Right.
So just something to think about.
Yeah. And that's something that I can pass along, but that's also something that you can perhaps email like our director Jamie about too, to pass along your ideas. So always feel free.
Any other questions or comments from dad? Okay. Any questions or comments from public? Yes.
Where can I go and get a list of the dinosaur themed activities? I have a feeling I'm already obligated.
Yes, you can go to any Wichita Public Library and we have a full size like 8.5-14 calendar that has every activity throughout the whole summer at all branches.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Thanks from the public. Okay. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay, next on the agenda is Wichita Park and Recreation.
Hello, good evening. Hello. My name is Heather Elliott. I'm the director of the Coleman Summer Activity Camp and the Kids Club for an after-school program. I'll start off with Linwood Recreation Center. Their 2026 Summer Discovery Program currently has 64 campers registered to attend this year's summer camp, with registration still being taken. Campers and staff are looking forward to a summer full of activities, including field trips, swimming, on-site visitors, and more. Linwood Recreation Center also partnered with the Kansas Humane Society to offer vaccination and microchipping clinic on Saturday, April 11th. 300 plus dogs and cat owners took advantage of the free clinic and received valuable pet care services. Linwood also recently received a large section of new sidewalks throughout the park, courtesy of the Public Works Sidewalk Management Program. Sidewalks in Linwood Park are well used by walkers, dog walkers, and bikers. The Riverside residents recently revitalized the Fresh Air Baby Camp Community Facility flower beds with a makeover of fresh plants and flowers. This project has created a warm, welcoming environment to renters and users, and reinforces our mission of community wellness and happiness. And then for Colvin, the Colvin Kids Club finished off the school year with 65 participants in the morning and afternoon. The kids spent time improving their reading and math skills, doing interactive scouts meetings, arts and crafts, and mini games and activities. Enrollment for the coming school year will coincide with the school registration, which is July 27th and 28th. And then Colvin Summer Activity Camp is in full swing. We currently have 56 campers registered, and we are still taking your registration. Staff have planned weekly themed events to give kids a magical experience while they attend. This week's theme was Day at the Farm, since their field trip this week will be enjoyed at O.J. Watson Park. If you have any kiddos that need something to do this summer, you can go to wichita.gov/SAC, or you can go to wichita.gov/SOD for Linwood. And then our next City Crew event is going to be July 11th from 10 to 12 at O.J. Watson Park, and the theme is Fishing Fun Fest. And
All I have. Any questions or comments from the DAB?
yes.
Where are you on, like, getting the rest of the pools open full time?
Lifeguards. If you have any teens that are needing a job, apply for lifeguard, because that's what we are in shortage of. And as far as I know, that's what we're still needing to open up to. I do believe McAfee was closed for a type first issue, but I think that was resolved, and I think they opened this past Saturday.
Any other questions or comment from Deb?
Cloud Park, parking lot area, what else going on there? And when's that gonna be completed? And then the damaged bridge is at the far east area. What's we gonna do about that?
I don't have any updates for Cloud. Do you guys hear?
I'm not sure when the parking will be done. It looks like it's pretty close. The bridge, right now, we're going out. We're looking at a couple of different designs. I think what we're gonna do there is a low water bridge. So it can go down, it'll just be like a little bit in there. And then set up some sort of catch-all a little further up. Because anytime it floods and it just gets pelted with debris. And that's what
Catches it all. at the-
Yeah. Yeah, so we're looking at a couple of different designs with that, as far as that goes. And there's another bridge in Fabric neighborhood that we're doing the same thing that got taken out by a drunk driver, I believe, on that bridge, but
It was a bad wreck, and that whole corner was a mess.
Yeah.
There's at least 4 cars involved in it, rollover, two rollovers at the same time.
yes.
Also the garden there, they got the flowers and stuff planted there on the hill?
We're looking at a new place to put the pollinator garden. It just isn't working out there. So they're gonna turn that into a grassy area to where families can go and mill about and find somewhere else in the park to do the pollinators garden. I'll just-
My bees are going the other direction. They have a park over here, they're going the other way.
Oh, yeah. We'll put it right on the corner there, so that way it's easy.
Look, wait, watch where they're going, they go that way. Okay, that was all I was.
Okay.
The bridge is a big concern, because it's a
Yeah.
mess.
On the lifeguard issue, are lifeguards general? Do they rotate pools or do they have one pool and they stay long?
I don't know.
Usually they are assigned to a specific pool.
Because I was wondering if we couldn't at least rotate through so that each, because the pools are there, they're filled, they're ready. It's just a staffing issue. And just to be more fair throughout the city,
Yeah, so
I don't know
the
what kind of training
the
that would take.
supervisors parents have to know the ins and outs of their specific pool, like the back of their hand. And we do have all those positions filled. It's mostly the level 1 lifeguards, and those are often going to be younger, like 14, 15, 16-year-olds, and
Transportation issues.
asking them to move across the city is a lot harder than going
Just
down the street where they
Just
live.
trying to keep it so that everybody, so one area doesn't feel
Right.
left out.
And we do that where we can, but a lot of them, again, it's neighborhood kids, 14-year-olds. I wish my kid is just shy. I'm really trying to get her a job this summer, but she was just shy of being able to qualify for it. So a lot of kids with just transportation issues.
Do you have any updates on the bathhouse? Be removed.
We are looking to put together a fundraiser surrounding the demolition of that bathhouse. I don't have a secure date yet, but it's been okayed by the city manager, okayed by Parks. I think last meeting, it actually went out for the RFP to have a contractor come out and do it. So it should be.
Any other questions or comments from Deb? Okay. Any questions or comment from public? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the information about the event Saturday at McAfee Pool?
I do not, but I can get that information.
Well, it starts at 11. It's celebrating McAfee Pool. It's recently been placed on the Historic Register, National Register of Historic Places, and they're doing a member of the family will be there to do a tour. They have some lunch and other things going on. A little outside of your area, but it's pretty significant.
We don't have a pool in our district anyway, so.
Well, then you ought to go up there.
That's right.
We have awesome splash pads.
We do have a few awesome splash.
Any other comment or questions from public? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we are going to go ahead and move to public agenda. With this portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for citizens to speak. It's not part of our regular agenda for the meeting. There's a 5-minute timeline for each speaker. Do we have anybody in the public who has an item they'd like to bring up? Okay. None. We'll go to scheduled items. There are no scheduled items. Any off agenda items? Nothing. I like this. All right, so we're going to move to new business now. New business. We're going to go ahead and have the Downtown Wichita Action Plan.
You can see it over. Just so you all, we were originally going to be watching a video of this, so we're doing a slight shift. That's why you all had shared presentations. We really just thought it was for reference if you had questions on the slide backwards, but I will send you the full presentation. So you can review it later if you would like to as well.
See how closely I can master recording. There we go. Okay. Excellent. Thanks, Becca. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and speak to you tonight. My name is Heather Schroeder, and I am the Executive Director of Downtown Wichita. And I have been very enviously staring out the window at your green park with water features, wishing that we had something like that downtown. So I'm here to tell you about the Downtown Wichita Action Plan. This is an update of a previous plan that Downtown did in collaboration with the city in 2010. That one was called Project Downtown. And at the time, it introduced some novel concepts. So we had, some ground floor storefronts downtown, but we had a lot of vacancies upstairs and So this plan was really kind of the one that introduced the concept of, what if you turned your vacant office space into housing, and really helped us grow our downtown residential community so that we have life downtown 24/7. And it's really kind of that day-to-day activity that fuels the ground floor storefronts and retailers and helps to have a thriving community. And so we measured kind of at the end of that 15-year period, at the end of 2025, what was the total impact of Project Downtown? And we counted $2 billion worth of investment from both public infrastructure projects and private development that happened in those 15 years. We saw at least 119 projects completed. Those are just the ones that we were able to count. And we added nearly 2,000 new housing units to downtown, in addition to 5,600 new garage parking spaces, so plenty of room to park downtown, and 1,350 new hotel rooms. So this was kind of the lay of the land in 2010, current development that was happening at that time. Fast forward 15 years, we have a lot more dots on the map to celebrate, and a lot more activity downtown. And so given that we had $2 billion worth of change over a decade and a half, we realized it's time to update the plan, kind of capture all that change that's happened and ask the community, well, what do you want your downtown to look like in 10 years from now? The reason we say 10 years instead of say 15 years, as we did with the last plan, is that we have a lot of momentum going right now. So things are happening at a quicker pace, and we want to make sure that we capture that. So what is the Downtown Wichita Action Plan? That's the name that we've given to this community planning effort. And it's really your plan for how you want to see your downtown grow over this next decade. So not only do we have kind of the vision, but we have the toolkit for how to reach those goals that you've set forth. To give you an idea of the area that we're talking about, so the area that our 501c3 nonprofit operates every day is here in blue. The action plan extends across the river and across Central to recognize the fact that we wouldn't want to plan just one side of a street. We don't want to plan just one side of a river. There's a lot of investment happening in Delano. They got the library, they got the ballpark, they got the road diet. Delano's had a lot of investment. And so we want to make sure that what happens on the east bank of the river matches that level of investment that we've seen in Delano. Similarly with the biomedical school going into the heart of downtown, that creates a clear pathway 10 blocks north to Ascension Via Christi, and that is north of our boundary of Central. So we wanted to make sure that we're kind of capturing all of that medical growth opportunity along those 10 blocks. So the first thing that we did in starting the kind of new downtown planning process is go to the data. So we've been working with the same market research firm since 2009. And we went back to them again and we said, okay, what does your current forecast say for downtown? And they said the market's actually really strong for all three sectors that we looked at: residential, office market, and hotel. They told us that there's sufficient demand to build up to 750 new apartment units annually downtown for the next 5 years. Our developers just aren't building them fast enough. And there's some reasons for that. There are some financial barriers and kind of public processes that we can work on and improve here. But there is a lot of pent-up demand for housing. I think we hear that a lot in Wichita, that we need more housing. And this is kind of the proof in the pudding to demonstrate that. Office market has actually done surprisingly well. Mid-level markets like Wichita were a little bit insulated during the downturn that offices saw in COVID. And so we bounced back pretty well. 90% of the new kind of top tier Class A office space leases that have been signed in Wichita between 2017 and 2023 were located within that kind of smaller downtown bubble. So we've been really fortunate to still have a really strong office presence in our downtown. And then hotel market, we've seen a lot of new rooms online in the past year or so downtown. We have the new AC Marriott hotel that opened up a year ago this month. There's still room for more hotel growth. So people say, okay, they announced this new hotel, they announced that new hotel. When are we going to reach the cap? Not yet. So we still have plenty of room to grow. So the next thing we did after getting that kind of baseline market research was we put out a request for proposals of urban design firms to work with us and help capture and illustrate the community feedback that we were going to collect. And we hoped that we might get responses from 3 firms across the country. We got responses from 17 firms across the globe that wanted to work with us. And so we picked a global planning firm called Saki and worked with their personnel based out of Boston and New York. And then they had a host of other subject area experts that they employed to help them get the job done, from landscape architects to real estate finance gurus and place branding experts. So then what that team did was they started a deep dive into our community to learn about Wichita. When you're doing a new community master plan, there's no template to follow from any other communities that you've worked on. You really need to dig in, find out, well, what makes this place unique? And they were really kind of smitten with our architecture downtown. They showed all these examples of kind of that durable brick construction, and noted the importance of continuing to use those quality materials, because our downtown's often somebody's first impression of Wichita, and we want to make sure they know that we're investing in ourselves and we're built to last. They looked at our zoning. This is our current built environment downtown. This is what the zoning actually allows at this moment in time. So we've only built up 15% of the potential development in our downtown district. So there's a lot of room for growth. All of buildings in gray here are existing. So this is not talking about tearing down existing buildings and building bigger. This is filling in the vacant lots and the surface parking lots that we have kind of strewn throughout our downtown. To that point, they measured the amount of surface parking and found that 48% of our land area in this plan area is surface parking lots. So nearly half of our land we committed to parking. When we add in our structured parking or our garages, 60% of our land is dedicated to parking. The more parking you have, the less there is to do. And so really we want to flip that equation and make sure that we're one of the highest tax revenue generating areas in the city. So we want to make sure that rather than using space for a parking lot, which doesn't generate much tax revenue at all, that we have opportunities to redevelop those lots into housing, into entertainment, into office space that will generate a higher tax base for the city as a whole. So then we started the public engagement process last January. So starting in January 25, we had a big open house in March. We had pop-up events to meet people where they were in the community, whether it was last year's Riverfest or the NCAA Fan Fest in Nestor Park, or just people working out at the downtown Y. We had 50 different stakeholder group meetings. So this was meeting with, say, young professionals all came to one meeting and kind of bounced ideas off of each other. Like, okay, I'm new to Wichita. Here are my frustrations with it. Here's my aspiration for it. Same thing with leaders of our different museums and cultural venues and performing arts groups. We got all of them in a room together. We got 35 competing downtown developers in a room together. That was an interesting conversation. And so just hearing from the kind of those different special lenses by topic was really informative to hear different perspectives. We put it out to the public to tell us, where do you take your friends and family downtown? This was really interesting because you can see these clusters, right? You can see there's a lot of emphasis on the riverfront. This is a frequent destination for people who want to show off Wichita to friends and family. A lot of activity in Delano on the west bank of the river. And then you have kind of this First Street cultural corridor that's emerging, where you have the Orpheum, Tallgrass Film Festival, Harvester Arts, the new Kansas American Museum is coming in, still the construction. You see activity around Napster Park, Old Town, and the arena. We asked people about their transportation habits. How far are you willing to walk after you park your car? We know that Wichita's a pretty car-dependent city. We don't have great public transportation options here. It's hot. We don't always walk. But surprisingly, a lot of people told us they are willing to walk 10 or more minutes if the destination's right? If there are interesting things to do. We asked about housing preference. This one was really surprising because it actually matched the market research. The market research told us that we need to build more purchasable options for housing downtown. Right now, most of the housing that we have downtown is just renters. We have maybe 5 different properties downtown that actually have
multifamily condos that you can buy your apartment and you can make changes to it. But the vast majority of what we have is rental. What the market wants is more ownership opportunities. So people want to have a space that's large enough to raise their family downtown. They want to have a townhouse, or, something that's, like a duplex. But we just haven't offered that product downtown. So that was kind of a light bulb moment for, we've got a mismatch between where people want to live and where they can live in our current downtown environment. We delved more into that riverfront and said, well, tell us what you want to do along the river. This was interesting. Food and beverage, a third of people. Can you think of any place currently along the Arkansas River where you can, grab a lemonade as you're walking around, or hot dog, or what's that?
Locust,
Well, it's not quite on the river,
no.
right? You got to
Yeah.
climb through a parking lot. Yep. So it's close though. It's close.
One of the closest.
Yep. Yep. You've got the Hyatt has like a terrace, but again, it's kind of like off path. There's no place that's like a kiosk, like you can just stop by and grab something and continue walking, or even just like rest with your family and, have a beer and watch the sunset. So that was a gap that the community identified. And then recreation, sure, we have a trail where you can walk it or run or bike in a line. But we don't have much else, like Burlington, Vermont has a series of huge swings along their waterfront. A lot of communities with rivers have boat rides. We don't really have that. We have it maybe during Riverfest, and that's it, 1 week a year. So looking at how do we diversify both our recreation opportunities and our food and beverage opportunities right along the water. We asked people about, important historical sites to highlight. Again, what makes Wichita unique? We have some great cultural resources downtown and on the west bank of the river, the museums along the river, but they're kind of disconnected. And so how would we go about tying those together? So all told, at the end of this 10-month community engagement process last year, we tallied up that we had heard from 1,000 visitors, a lot of great feedback. And then what that design team that we hired did was they synthesized all the feedback. They said, okay, Wichita has 4 goals for how they want to see their downtown grow over the next decade. And then they boiled that down into action steps. That's why we call it an action plan. The last thing we want is for this to be a document that, gathers dust on somebody's shelf. I want this to be a dog-eared copy that's on everybody's desk. Everybody in the community is invested in how we get these goals done. So what are the 4 goals that the community put forth? They want downtown to be more connected. Right now we have a really strong identity with Old Town. We've got our riverfront, and then we have what I lovingly call the sea of nothingness in between, because there's kind of a disconnect between, the east side and the west side of Douglas as you get into downtown. There isn't a continuous route that really kind of pulls people along. There's a lot of gaps in the streetscape, a lot of those surface parking lots that pop up on corners where you're like, should I continue or is this the end? So making sure that we've got a connected route that you can traverse, in your car, sure, but also on foot, by bike, by transit. We talked a lot about the riverfront already, activating that riverfront in all those different ways so that it is more of a well-used resource here in our community. Making sure that we continue those design standards that we started in the 1800s, and that we're not introducing materials that won't last into our downtown streetscape. We want to continue that standard of good design. And then finally, Wichitans told us, we don't yet have a full service downtown where if you chose to live without a car, you could meet your daily needs. The closest grocery store to the heart of our city is 2 miles outside the district. So it's really hard to grocery shop if you don't have a private vehicle. You can hop on a bus, but it's not convenient. My second week living in town, I've been in Wichita about 2 years now. The second week living here, an older woman came up to me on the sidewalk and said, I'm staying at one of the hotels. I'm just looking for a place to buy a bottle of Tylenol. And I had to tell her, I'm so sorry, ma'am, we don't have that here. Like we don't have Tylenol in our downtown district. We have no drugstores, we have no pharmacies. And that was kind of a moment for me of, wow, we've got some work to do. We've got some big gaps to fill. So how do we kind of fill those missing gaps in our retail landscape and make sure that we're offering those day-to-day necessities? So we talked about the 4 goals. There were also themes that arose related to transportation, getting around. So some of the strategies that are stemming from transportation involve making sure that we're continuing the bike master plan that the community did a lot of work on a few years ago, and providing these continuous routes, because not everybody wants to drive a car, not everybody can afford a car. We want options, right? We want options of how to get around efficiently. Looking at a transit loop or a bus circulator, the queue line's gotten really watered down. It runs every 45 minutes now. It used to run every 5 to 10. And what we find is that ridership plummets when you reduce the frequency because it becomes not as usable a service. So we're looking at how do we reintroduce the circulator that's useful forth and before. And then signature streets, looking at other communities that have invested in their main street, kind of changed the scale and made it more pedestrian friendly. And what that does for private investment, it helps the businesses thrive, and you slow down traffic, you provide more parking on the street and more trees for people to walk around under. We talked about the importance of housing and how that fuels the day-to-day economy downtown. We talked about the importance of design, that urban form. Landscape and public realm is one that I keep coming back to. I mentioned we don't have a ton of green space downtown. We have 7 tiny little disconnected city parks. Our largest park downtown is A. Price Woodard, which is on the banks of the river. But even that, has some outdated infrastructure. The Parks Department is doing a huge master planning process right now. So we're excited to collaborate with them on, how do downtown parks benefit from additional investment. One thing that our organization at Downtown Wichita has done that was a recommendation in the plan is that we already started a clean team. So we have 4 full-time staff members who 6 days a week are picking up litter, removing graffiti, taking care of any, dog poo on the sidewalk, making sure that it's a comfortable environment that we feel proud of, that feels clean and nice to be in. And the last item here, gosh, we need more trees in our downtown. It makes it just so much more comfortable when we walk on the shady side of the street. But we've lost so much of our canopy due to trees dying or being damaged that we have a lot of work to do in replacing that. And then finally, we talked a little bit about that cultural loop and moments of history and how to paint that picture for locals and visitors alike of what makes Wichita unique. So strategies and actions in the plan. If any of you are interested in reading the full 208-page document, I believe that Becca has sent out that link and that you have access to it. But the way that everything's structured in the plan is that you've got your strategy, you've got a matrix of all the actions to achieve that strategy, who's responsible, what's the time frame, who are the partners that need to be involved, and then what goals do each of those strategies touch upon. I'm gonna flip through this a little bit more quickly. Pre-design standards. This is everything from, it's not great to locate a parking lot on a corner because it makes 2 directions of the street seem kind of dead. It's better to tuck in the parking behind the buildings so that if you're shopping along, you as the pedestrian have an experience that's uninterrupted. Also, making sure that we have transparent windows on the ground floor. It took me 6 months to realize that Bite Me Barbecue was open because their windows are so dark, and I missed out on 6 months of quality barbecue because I just couldn't see through their windows. So making sure that as a community, we have standards in place to have that transparency so that our businesses can thrive, and also that the people on the street realize there are great places to eat that are open. Wayfinding refers to the signage that tells you what's around the corner. We really don't have this in our downtown right now. We have a couple of kind of old-fashioned signs from the 1990s that are really faded that direct car traffic, but we don't have anything that says, hey, it's a 5-minute walk to the Museum of World Treasures, or there's great coffee around the corner. So how can we take cues from other communities that have successfully implemented that? This was an example from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where they just put the maps on existing poles. So you don't have to drill into the concrete and do new infrastructure. You're just adding to what's already there. I thought that was a really clever solution. Cultural walking and biking loop. This is something that, if you remember all those dots that people had put on on one of our feedback boards about places they wanted to highlight for friends and family. This is a 4-mile loop that those designers put together that connects all those historic sites. Again, private market solution. We are in the running for a Rotary grant that would give us $150,000. Our organization already has $50,000 set aside to match it. That we want to start a downtown history trail. So you can walk it, you can bike it. We would have blade signs. We would have different, permanent interpretation in the streetscape that you could learn from as you go. I think we have a video here. Let's see. See if we can get that to play. Whoops. Oh, no, because it's a PDF. Never mind. Right? I think, yeah. So we're not gonna do it. That's fine. But the idea is let's teach locals and visitors alike about our history. Somebody tried to tell me that our Dockham sit-in was at a building at Hillside in Douglas. I said, no, I'm pretty sure it was at Broadway in Douglas, like at the main intersection of downtown. And so I delved into a little research, and sure enough, it was right downtown. It was in the ground floor of the what's now the Ambassador Hotel. But there's nothing outside the Ambassador to let you know that history happened there. So we want to make sure that we don't lose those moments of important history again that are so special to Wichita. And so if we're successful with the grant, we'll go ahead and get started on this work. And there's a mobile app that we would go with it so that you can kind of do a scavenger hunt for the different historic sites. Who knows what Cartholite is? You want to tell us?
It's a mixture of a special thing made in Wichita, found around central Kansas now, mostly Wichita. It's a mix of a concrete and depression glass ground up for color. And Manisa Bridge was just listed on the National Historic Register, primarily because it is an art bridge with Cartholite figures of Native American scenes.
Yeah, so excellent description. I couldn't have done it better. Thank you. So here's that Manisa Bridge that she mentioned. The Dockham building at Hillside and Douglas has Cartholite as well. And so in a future in a future phase of the Downtown History Trail, we would love to add Cartholite ground markers. I think that's a lot cooler than the red line that connects the Freedom Trail in Boston, and it's something that's so unique to Wichita. So here's the cost of making that happen. Our nonprofit is taking on with private philanthropy, hopefully, if we're successful, and kind of the schedule would be to have that totally implemented in 2 years. With that, I am going to hand it over to Nomita. We'll talk about next steps.
I'm Nomita Kundu with the planning department. So this plan is considered to be adopted as an element of Wichita Central County Comprehensive Plan. And that's the reason that you are seeing this presentation today. And we have been presenting this to all the DABs. We have hit 3 DABs on Monday night. This is the 4th one. And we plan to present this to all the DABs starting this week through the next month. This plan will also be presented at the Advanced Plan Committee meeting on June 11. And then eventually it would be presented at the Planning Commission meeting, the Wichita City Council meeting, and the Board of County Commissioners. And so the staff is recommending approval from the DAB today to be considered at the Wichita City Council. And with that, we'll stand for any questions.
Any questions from DAB or comments?
I would second a lot of what I heard in that. I have a friend who I helped move here. I hired her when I worked at Exploration Place, and she got a place downtown, and she came from New York City. And the first thing she said is, where can I shop? And I said, well, to be honest, you're gonna have to go a ways to get to a grocery store that you would feel comfortable shopping at, especially at night as a single female. Unfortunately, it's kind of how it is. But I've seen it in places as I travel around for my job, some of the downtown features of making things walkable, but also the whole parking thing, we don't build futuristic 2000s buildings in Kansas, where you go to Denver and they utilize their space by putting parking under a building, and you put your Target, your IKEA, your whatever above the parking so that it serves both purposes, but it also gives you covered parking, which is great when you live in Kansas because we have hail and sun and winter. And also just covered walking space would be super useful. Last week I walked 100,000 steps in New York City and New Jersey, and there were dedicated places to do a lot of that. So I think this is a fantastic plan. I think the ability to be able to own your spaces downtown definitely helps that too. I think that the plan looks great, but some of those first steps are get some grocery stores, get a drugstore, get CVS, Target, somebody downtown and tap that market, because there's a lot of people that are in a food desert that's really hard to overcome.
We do have about 6,000 people who live in the plan area right now.
And we are, with the new multimodal transit center, we made sure that was mixed use as well. So it does have parking above it. There are some discussions going on about additional parking garages downtown, long-term discussions. But that's very much centered in those discussions. How do we make it mixed use? How do we incorporate grocery stores and whatnot? That's part of the plan. I don't think it's necessarily like a full-fledged grocery store. More a lot of the grab and go stuff, but that is an improvement. And Heather, do you remember what the density level is for where grocery stores succeed? Is it 10,000?
So national chains look for a minimum of 10,000 residents to move into an area. Sweet spot's really more like 15,000. So, you know, as much as we would love to have like in, you know, you mentioned mixed use with garages. I lived in Washington, DC for a time, and they had a Whole Foods with a parking deck above it. So you would take the elevator with your cart to get back to your car. You know, we're not going to attract a Whole Foods right now, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that something smaller scale, like a Cosentino's in downtown Kansas City, or even like a Larcher's or a corner store or a bodega couldn't thrive in downtown. Right now, we have such pent up demand for, you know, I also, full disclosure, I'm a downtown resident. And like when you run out of eggs, it's, oh shoot, I hope I know my neighbors, because you really get stuck, you know, in the middle of a recipe. And so just having a corner store that you could pop down to buy those necessities would be such a help in the interim until we get to those bigger numbers where you're attracting a bigger store. That being said, you know, it wouldn't necessarily fit in our downtown to have, you know, a Mega Dillon's with a marketplace in it. You know, we don't need the t-shirt shop inside the grocery store. We just need the groceries. So really the right size for a downtown grocery is like 10,000 to 20,000 square feet instead of 50,000.
Yeah. How does that fit in with like DoorDash though? Because I mean, the people who are moving downtown are going to be generally the younger population. We're going to be more tech savvy. We're going to be using DoorDash and Uber and Lyft and Uber Eats.
It's very generous of you. So we have two major demographics downtown. We have people who are empty nest because they haven't started families, and people who are empty nest because they've sent their kids off to school. And so I would say in favor of my slightly more senior neighbors, not everybody's a DoorDasher, and we need to cater to the population.
Also, if we're gonna have more tourism or convention space things downtown, just like you said, that woman was in from out of town and there's no place you can walk to go get something. Now you have to get an Uber, you have to DoorDash, you have to do these things just to get a bottle of Tylenol, and you've got a splitting headache.
No, I agree. Yeah, there's a bodega on every corner.
Oh, it's, yeah, 100%. I mean, they're more than Starbucks. But I go city to city. I was in LA the week before last, and that is not a walkable area, but I could still get to just about anything within 6 blocks. And it says, you know, they're willing to walk 10, 15 minutes to get someplace. And if it means getting your car out of the garage to go down and get Tylenol versus just walk a couple blocks, most people are gonna walk a couple blocks. And downtown's a lot more friendly than other downtowns at night.
I think if everybody who's in town for Riverfest right now might not be like a regular user of our downtown. And like, say your kid has an accident and you need to pick up some diapers, like you can't buy diapers in our downtown, and it's just like, it's not a convenient way for families to visit our city.
Any other, excuse me, any other comments?
Oh, go ahead.
You're expanding your plan east, or excuse me, west and north. Have you looked at south and east also?
Yes, so the reason that at this moment in time, we're kind of like, okay, crossing to the west and north is because there's concurrent development happening. And we want to make sure that, the development happening at the same time on the West Bank River matches what's going on. Same thing with, north of Central and south of Central. We are in regular contact with our friends of the neighboring movement and SOSI. Have written letters of support for their projects, south of Kellogg. And I think once that gets up and running, it's like, okay, how are we planning both sides of the street to make sure that we're providing a continuous experience, especially for people walking under the overpass, to connect those neighborhoods. To the east has been a bigger challenge, I'll be honest. I mentioned that Delano was kind of the first one to right-size Douglas Ave through a commercial district. And then they skipped downtown and they went over to Douglas Design District. But in Douglas Design District, between Washington and Grove, they're not narrowing the curves, they're just using paint. And that's what the budget allowed at this point, but man, that's not enough. It's not enough to change the way that stretch of Douglas functions. And so that makes me very concerned about, well, what are we going to get in the middle when they get to filling in the downtown section? Is it going to be more like the Delano side, or is it going to be more like the Design District side? We want to be more like Delano because we see the economic activity over there that's resulted from narrowing the street. Time will tell how it shapes up in Douglas Design.
Any other questions or comments, Jared?
You said you've been here 2 years. Where did you come from?
Syracuse, New York.
Okay. How would you compare Syracuse with Wichita? I mean, what do you see? I mean, I'm just trying to, I have another question to ask, but how would you compare Syracuse to Wichita?
Yeah, the metro area is the same. It's different by 10 people. So I came from a very similar metro-sized area. Wichita is a significantly bigger city because we have sprawled out so much. So we have space. We have a lot of catchment area for the city. So our tax base is bigger, but we also have to spend more of our tax money on roads that go farther out. Same mix of city and country. I mean, Syracuse, New York is 4 hours north of New York City. So when I tell people I'm from New York, they usually assume like New York City, and I'm like, no, the cow part. I went from dairy cattle to beef cattle. Yeah.
So Wichita is, I noticed when you showed the slide about parking and people said that they would be willing to walk 10 minutes or more. And I find that a little hard to believe in Wichita, Kansas. I'm willing, I just got back from a very large city and we had a blast. Didn't need a car at all for 5 days and we went everywhere. People in Wichita seem to struggle with not using their own cars. And how do we get past that? What are your plans to get us past that hump? When we built the new stadium, there was a massive controversy about not enough parking. Well, you go to Wrigley Field in Chicago and show me how many parking lots. 0.
Yeah.
Go to Lumen Field in Seattle and show me how many parking lots are near there. 0.
Yeah, I think.
How do we get Wichita to cross that hump?
Yeah,
it's where people use
the quickest intervention I can name is make it worth the walk, right? So that's the onus is on Downtown Wichita as a nonprofit that focuses on development, marketing, and placemaking to say, hey, we have to make it so that you don't feel like you're walking 10 blocks. It feels seamless. And we do that through, the design of the ground floor,
activation of spaces like, if any of you know gallery, you know, the kind of moments of surprise and whimsy where you're like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. That whole mill. Okay, what's next? Filling in those vacant storefronts, especially on corners. You know, so there's a lot of work that we have to do. A lot of this is direct assignments to my organization over the next 10 years. But then also, how do we work with our community partners with private development to make sure we're getting it all done? You know, I will say the biggest distinction was Syracuse is the snowiest city in America, and people walked because it was more convenient rather than pulling your car out of the garage, driving 5 blocks to another part of downtown. You just walk it. And so, you know, there's a, I think, cultural shift that has to happen, but we can help that along by making it a more interesting walk for people riding board.
Well, I wish you luck, and I encourage you to continue being a cheerleader for Wichita. I've lived here my whole life, and I love my city, and you know, I wish we'd change in some ways sometimes, but you know, I try and work on that, my friends and family as well. So
I'm also going to start a walking club in the middle of the workday and just show people how quick it is. I actually walked with some coworkers. We had a little like celebration for some work anniversaries, and we walked from 505 East Douglas, you know, basically Emporia in Douglas, to Old Larmies, which is behind Larkspur. And a couple of my coworkers were like, "This is going to be far," and I'm like, "I promise you, it's an 8-minute walk." And so we timed it, and sure enough, it was 8 minutes. And I was like, "You guys good? Anybody tired? We're good?" They're like, "I didn't realize how close it was." And I'm like, "You guys, we got to do this more often." So just, you know, experiencing something new. Yes.
I was gonna say that's gonna be like one thing over that hump, Marina. Seeing other people walk, it motivates you too. You feel safer. I mean, it's just kind of like gonna spiral in a positive way.
It's a great point. Positive activity breeds positive activity.
That as a person who lives downtown and moved here from New York City, I just force everyone that I love to walk with me. I'll be like, cool, yeah, that's only like 10, 15 blocks for doing that. And so we're like, what? And once they do it, they're like, oh, that wasn't bad. I barely even noticed we walked. So yeah, just gotta force them into it.
No, Stephanie and I are starting to watch them.
I'm down to do it.
I have another question on, then I'll shut up, I promise. What is your plan? Is there a plan to improve public transportation in this city, citywide? I mean, I think, and I've said this even, you know, back my council days, I think the biggest thing that holds Wichita back is people are so afraid to invest their tax dollars here in public transportation. And until we invest in public transportation, our city is just not going to grow. Our city is not going to advance the way we really want it to. And people I just truly believe people have to realize that we have to invest in public transportation, and then more things will come. It will fill in. Do you agree, disagree?
I agree completely. We have 2 major challenges to our transportation system. Number one, we did away with our regional transportation authority, and we consolidated it under city government, which is very defining in terms of our funding opportunities. Number 2, we have no support from Sedgwick County for our transportation system, which means that we have a mismatch between where people live in Wichita and where jobs are in Sedgwick County. And so, you know, when you have that spatial mismatch between where people live and where they can earn an income, you've got a fundamental, I would say, crisis. And so, you know, looking at the role Metropolitan Transportation Authority can play in that, county can play, Wichita alone can sustain an effective transportation system.
And to Jared's point, I mean, I think it was 17% of our budget for transit was paid for by ridership. So that's a tough one to really kind of parse through without additional sources of income adding to it. We do have our one study that came out that redesigned our routes, and we have another one with WAMPO that's trying to connect us with Hayesville, Derby. You know, there's about a mile gap between bus stops there, but having some sort of connection will help. But to your point, that doesn't do a whole lot for people working second shift or people trying to get around downtown. So It's something that's like a lot of other issues with Wichita. It's a matter of funding and where are you gonna find the resources.
Also currently, so I also serve on the Transportation Advisory Board. We also give away some of our federal money to Derby and Butler County because they provide matches that Wichita is not providing. And so I think it's worth looking at those funds that we're giving away. We don't have enough to sustain our system for the city of Wichita as it is, and yet we're subsidizing other municipalities that may have things on their own.
Let's have a conversation.
Any other additional questions, concerns from Deb? Someone open to the public, if you could please shoot your name and your address for record, and keep it at 5 minutes, please.
Richard Hill, 4555 Lower. Back to the stores downtown, 10 years, a little longer than that. I challenged Wink Hartman because he kept saying downtown will never grow if you don't put a store down there, grocery store, like grocery store, little bit of meat, so people could actually live. So I got him, I talked to him, and I put him to the challenge. You open the store, you got the money, you can do it. Rent was good, but theft, homelessness, robbery, people did not feel safe. And he says, it's not worth the gamble to me. To me, get somebody like Quick Trip or somebody like that to put in small stores, no gas, they could probably make it work. But they have the same problem at Washington and Douglas. Hydraulics got it, 47th Street and Hydraulics got it. They hire security now. They can't do anything. I know one of the security guards, they can't do anything. They're just set eyes. What Quick Trip do, start shutting the stores down for 2 or 3 hours a night. Cut some of that out. The busing has been a problem all along. We have something at Century 2. You can't park near Century 2. We used to run buses from Lawrence Dumont, which is not there no more. We can't park there. But you used to run buses, shuttle buses over there, so you could park there. You could park at the old Dillon's at Meridian, and there's a couple places out east, and they run shuttle buses to increase the parking to bring the people into the downtown area. We don't have that no more. Why not? Why are we taking one-way streets and converting them to two-way streets and eliminating more parking? We're going backwards. If nobody's noticed, we're going backwards in what Wichita should be doing, figuring out how to get the people in and out. And I think the grocery store deal is going to be a big deal as long as you got homelessness and crime the way it is and no consequences. That's why the store Broadway and Harry shut down. Walgreens shut down there. The old Dillon store shut down there. And they don't have near the problem there that they do in the downtown area. I think it's great to put all them apartments in, but once again, you got to give them protection to go to the store and home.
I agree.
Thank you.
Well, Vanessa, you did something. I haven't been able to. We actually got Rich to
Kept it
state
under
his
5 minutes.
address and where he's from, so.
Well, you did a good job following instructions.
To state your address.
Yeah, 4555 Lower.
You kept him under 5 minutes.
Yes, good job. Thank you very much for respecting that time barrier. Anybody else?
I was just curious, that link for the full 208 pages, is that available to the citizen as well too? I couldn't find it online. I just couldn't find the small one.
The staff report does have a link.
Yeah, so there's in the agenda packet online, there is a document called the staff report. At the very bottom, there's a link that has the action plan. There's another link on there as well.
Okay, so it's in the agenda
Supporting
plan for the day
documents.
online.
What?
So this is the staff report that's available on the packet. If you go to the back of it, there's like 3 links, one for the action plan, Yeah, I think 3 documents on here.
Right, it's basically a link in a document that's in a link on the website, right? Okay, yeah, I got it. I should be able to.
And can you give us your name and address?
Oh,
please?
sorry, Eddie Peter, 2201 East MacArthur, and just one statement on that too. Transportation and communication is absolutely essential for taxpaying citizens. They can't get where they're going, they really can't earn anything. And I've seen a market increase in citywide ATV use all over the place. Infrastructure and everything else damaged, they never go along the sidewalks, always cutting a yard or two or parking lot or such.
It's usually been the worst.
Yeah, anyway, I just, yeah.
Fantastic. Golf cart.
Yeah, so it's important on that entire transportation idea.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I'd like to respond to the action plan.
Okay, can you give your name and address,
Sure
please?
can. Greg Kite. Office address is 129 East 2nd Street North. Can I use the podium or is that possible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, great.
You
Thank you.
got 5 minutes, my
Okay,
friend.
I'll kick it up a little bit.
All right.
Councilman Hoheisel, members of the DAB. Again, my name is Greg Kite. I'm a local attorney and member of the executive committee of the Vote No Coalition Against the 1% Sales Tax. I am also the president of the Historic Preservation Alliance of Wichita and Sedgwick County. It's a pleasure to be able to speak here in front of you this evening in response to the action plan. In particular, and it is over a 200-page document, but I want to refer to some specific pages, and I don't want to waste your time on all the rest of the plan. I want to direct your attention to the new performing arts facilities section, which is pages 138 through 141 and pages 160 through 163. And that is again of the Downtown Wichita Action Plan 2020-2035. My concern is, the purpose for my presentation is, quite candidly, why is a new performing arts section even in this action plan? I want you to think about that as I go through some points. Let's talk about the history. Let's set the stage, no pun intended, for the history of plans. The Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, that came out between 2019 and 2023. 4 of the 5 original proposals required demolition of Century 2. Of course, a new performing arts facility was involved in each one. A grassroots campaign came as a result of that Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, and it garnered 17,300 signatures on a petition, which was delivered to City Hall. That proposal of the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, most importantly, would have provided 10 acres of green space where Century 2 once stood at a cost of $330 million. I would say that's the most expensive lawn to mow in town. $330 million for green space where the most iconic structure of Wichita stood. Let's move forward a little bit. Downtown Wichita. Yes, they in fact had 3 open houses. I attended 2 of the 3. They provided Post-it notes for you to use to express your thoughts and suggestions about the master plan. They had a number of picture boards on the walls and easels as well as on the tables. I saw no notes, and again, I was at 2 or 3 of these open houses. I saw no notes expressing the desire for a new performing arts. What did I see? I saw notes expressing the desire to preserve and maintain Century 2. I saw notes expressing that Century 2 can handle all events, specifically including the production of Hamilton in full screen. I saw notes declaring that Century 2 was the most iconic building in downtown Wichita. On those same picture boards that I saw as I was malingering around, so to speak, with these Post-it notes, I noticed a nice blow-up of the downtown area, including Century 2. Century 2 was depicted as what? An empty shell with a botanical garden inside. Let me repeat that. An empty shell with a botanical garden inside. Now let's move forward again. Wichita, Florida, recently Again, I'm involved with the 1% sales tax, the opposition to that sales tax. It was a pleasure to be involved in that. It included a new performing arts center. That was one of the buckets that was provided for. The poll on the new performing arts by Wichita Forward was so embarrassing, they refused to disclose the results. The results, however, with respect to saving and preserving and maintaining Century 2 was a clear 60%. They weren't ashamed to show that. It shouldn't be fun. The final vote tally, which you all are aware, is something we're very proud of, and it was the most overwhelming vote I'm aware of. 82% against the 1% sales tax and 18% in favor of it. And one of the major reasons for that, I can just tell you, is because they attached the performing arts to that 1% sales tax. And that was a bait and switch with respect to a few $1 million going to Century 2. People saw through that and they said, oh no, we're not going to lose Century 2 and build some $150 million performing arts when it costs more like $500 million to build a decent performing arts. The new one in Nashville, Tennessee is $620 million. As Bill Warren has said, saving Century 2, preserving it and maintaining it can be done 10 cents on the dollar. And I'm out of time, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any other comments? Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Okay. Name and address, please.
Claire Willenberg, 1402 North Garland. I'm here mainly, I am a realtor, but I don't do much downtown, although I have sold some living spaces. I was impressed that you're wanting to do more residential that could be purchased. I was not aware of I don't know how you pronounce it, Schmidt.
SSMID, yeah.
Yes, right, until just recently. So my question is, who will be responsible to let prospective owners know about the extra tax? Because most realtors don't know.
It's public
Well,
information.
that's my impression. Most is.
Sure,
in
it's public
quotes.
information and it's part of the buyer's due diligence process to make sure they know all the associated fees.
And where did they find that then?
I just bought a condo downtown last week and I found it through county records.
I sold a condo a year and a half ago and we didn't find it.
It was last year that we raised this.
Thank you. Okay.
To the point to where it is. And a little background on that. Actually, please finish your thoughts and then
Yeah. I would just suggest that we get some kind of inclusion in the continuing ed for realtors on that tax increment.
I mean, the SMIT has been in place since 2002.
Right.
So it's nothing new. It's been out there for every condo sale that's been made. We haven't had any new condo development since 2009. So it really should be part of the due diligence process that everyone is accustomed to.
This is true, but not everybody does that well, especially if they're new to Wichita.
Sorry.
And with all due respect, not everybody's as confident as you either.
Right. So my suggestion is that we have a plan in place to make sure realtors know. You know, like we're constantly reminded if we sell in an HOA, we're supposed to get the covenants and hand them to the
Exactly.
prospective
And I
buyer.
think that happens very frequently. So I'm encouraged if you do that for your clients. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about this recently. Somebody was upset that they were paying $60 a month for their SNIT fees. I would argue they get much more from that in return because SNIT fees help support the operations of our organization.
My point is that
Everything from clean and safe services to downtown beautification, to events, to programming, to development support.
I'm not arguing against the fee. That tax is really nice. I mean, it does provide a lot. My point is it's better to know ahead of time than to find out after you've purchased.
I don't know if anybody has found out after they've purchased, because again, it's part of the due diligence.
We can always do better if we
I think education, not wanting to help educate people is what I'm hearing.
I think that the county records are clear. But if they're not, then that would be a Citrus County question because they post all the taxation through the GIS site.
Okay.
And just a little bit of background on the Schmid. It's an extra tax, property tax for the passing jurisdiction downtown. There was a board set up to oversee it. Becca and I sit on the Parks Master Plan Board. And
Say the Schmid one, I was like, no, I don't.
no, not that one. But one of the things that we've discovered here recently is just how much of our budget that's supposed to go for park cleanup is actually going to clean up dumpsters downtown, for example. And just how abnormally large a percentage that is compared to other jurisdictions. So last year they did ask for a raise of the Schmid and to dedicate that towards street cleanup. So they're doing things such as redoing some of the trash cans down there to make it easier for trash trucks to dump it. There's a whole list of things, and it actually allows us to spread out the resources to other parks, because one of the things I hear a lot from residents is maintaining parks, keeping parks clean. We have a waste problem here in Wichita, and anytime a dumpster gets blown over, it just goes all over the park. So the more resources we can allocate for that, I think the better. So that's just a little bit of background on the Schmid and the discussions that we've had over the past few years.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea. I just think we can all do a better job of educating and not.
It's always, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Especially in our district. Some people watch the news, some people expect direct mail, some people look at social media. It's always a challenge to educate and get the word out, but to your point, we will see what we can do about it.
Most of us need to hear it 3 or 4 times different ways.
I would
Because
think
we're
there's a-
bombarded with so much.
I would think there's a real estate professionals organization in town
Oh, yeah.
that could take on that.
Okay, so we're past the 5 minutes on that. Okay. I believe we have one more.
Berta Johnson, 7707 West Central Park. I live out west. My question is, I'm sorry, but my eyesight is not what it used to be, and I'm a little bit on the angle. What are the boundaries that your organization is working to develop? And you're expanding, you said you want to expand north of Central? Because I very much avoid downtown at all costs, and I'm fearful to go downtown because of the homelessness and the crime that's down there and the trash that blows around down there. And so I'm of a mindset I would never in a million years consider moving down. But I want to know, because the homelessness is a tremendous problem in this whole area down there. And I guess I'm just not brave enough to go and walk around downtown, particularly on the evening, anything like that, because of the constant accostation by homeless. So I'm just wondering, is that something that your boundaries, because north of Central is atrocious?
Yeah, north of Central is not within my organization's boundaries. It would.
So you driving the homeless to go further north then?
I'm not.
We're
driving-
trying to
I'm not driving anybody anywhere.
get people off the street. We're tired. We're not doing the driving homeless either direction, especially in our district, because when it gets pushed out of downtown, it comes to us. So we're not looking to push homeless anywhere anymore. We're trying to get people off the streets and into housing. And
Well,
into
I don't think housing is the solution for the
Well, it
problems
depends.
downtown there.
We
The
can-
vandalism and, I kind of laughed about you talking about the windows and how you couldn't see through. And I was surprised anybody has glass at all on the main level, because if you can throw a brick at it downtown Wichita, they will, at least north of Central, they do. And so, but your boundaries are what?
Shown in blue. So Central, the east bank of the river, north side of Kellogg, west side of Washington.
And did you say that you had a survey done of 1,000 people, and that's how one of the ways the plan came together? How many people did you say?
It was not a survey. We held 56 events last year to engage whoever from the public wanted to show up and voice their thoughts. And the total tally was about 1,000.
So you based your plan on 1,000 people out of a population of, what are we now, 400,000, 450,000? That's what you're developing the Wichita downtown on 1,000 people's input.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Me too. All right. Yeah, so the staff is recommending approval and would like to take a vote.
We're doing it's moving back to the board for discussion and a vote on either approving or denying a recommendation to city council to approve this.
So, board discussion. Anybody?
I love the plan. But I've also loved every other plan that's been done for the past 40 years. I struggle to see, and I'm, I want to be a cheerleader for Wichita as well. As I've lived here my entire life, I love I've said before, I love my hometown. Wichita will be where I live for the rest of my life until I can figure out some way to go to Belize or somewhere. But I just worry that this is going to be another one of those plans that, that's been done since the 1980s. And what's going to get us past, like I asked, what's going to get past us this hump to get these things done? Now, I don't mean that we need to stop and quit all of our efforts. That's certainly not what I'm saying. I just think we need to find the catalyst. It's going to do something. Yeah, go ahead.
I think based on what you just said, that they came with receipts. I mean, the first slide or the second or third slide had how much has been invested in downtown since 2010. I think that was the year. How many completed projects have been done? How many square feet have been transformed? There's been a big change in what's happened in downtown Wichita. Downtown Wichita does not look like downtown Wichita did back in 2008, 2009, when I moved to Wichita from Hutchinson. And I don't think downtown is really that bad. There are parts, there are sections in every city. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. There are definitely corners you don't go to after dark if you don't belong in that neighborhood. It's how it is. Are there things we can do better? Yeah, there's tons of them, but I think they brought receipts of how this type of investment and this type of plan can move forward. I think that if we just say, well, we're waiting for a plan that's perfect for everybody, we're never going to do anything.
Yeah, we have a habit of throwing out the good in favor of the perfect. And that's, a shame on us. I moved here in 2017, so 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. And I've seen tremendous change, just particularly when it comes to people living downtown. What is 150 North Main or Market? I think it's Main. Might be South Main.
National?
Yeah. That's completely changed. And there's a lot of that going on. And your office buildings have been changed over to apartments. I'm seeing a lot of people downtown, again, from what I'm seeing, younger people walking their dogs, 5, 6 o'clock at night. And NAFSCAR Park has become really a central focal point. And that's all happened in the last 10 years. Just in the last 10 years, the change that has happened downtown has been really impressive for somebody coming from the outside. And I think for a lot of people, if you're living here and it's happening, it's just another thing. And you don't necessarily recognize the changes as something, it's just another thing. And I think that's kind of a shame, that we don't appreciate downtown and the changes that I agree, Century 2 is a fantastic opportunity. I look at the building though, and I see a 1968 building that's very, very difficult to work with. I look at the construction, and again, this is me as somebody who's from outside. I don't have a stake in that history. And I look at that building and I'm like, it's really cool architecture. And I look at the history and it's designed by students of Frank Lloyd Wright, or students of Frank Lloyd Wright. Not Frank Lloyd Wright, but students of students. And I start to wonder, is that really as significant? To me, it doesn't hold the significance. I love the building, don't get me wrong. I think it is a landmark and should be preserved. But how do you do that? And that's what I don't hear from opposition groups is we're opposed, and this happens on a lot of stuff. It's not just this. We're opposed, but we have no alternative.
But we did, hold on, wait, I'm sorry, we are not doing public comment right now.
That's something to take up at a further meeting, right?
Sean, I'm gonna ask you to come back to, you are making a decision on the recommendation of this specific plan. So that is what we're discussing right now.
So this is a plan. It's not a final design. It's not absolute and complete. But it's a plan, and it's something that can continue to take input, hopefully from everyone, and continue to improve. That's the point. So I would like to make a motion, once we have more conversation, that we recommend to City Council to adopt this plan.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was placed on the floor. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Hold on one second, Vanessa. Are my online folks, are you voting?
Yeah, I'm opposed.
Ariel?
I said aye.
Is there anyone else opposed in the room?
So much. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go to board agenda here, the updates, issues and reports.
Well, I'd like to get home and watch the Spurs game tonight, so I'll try and make this quick. First quarter's already over. Just one. I'm a big whammy. Spurs.
Spurs 27, Knicks 17.
There we go. Maybe I can stay here. I want to fill the bus.
Don't jinx it going home.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll fill the bus for keep everybody here. if I have to.
We'll meet you every night during the game.
We did the last of our budget retreats here recently, but it's not going to be your last chance to engage. We had one at City Hall. It was a good turnout. We're going to continue to work through budget issues. We talked about transit today. That's another issue. If we have just so big of a pot, we're still talking about whether we take in the full assessment or not. Here in a couple of weeks, we will get the actual official numbers from county that we base our budget on. Up until then, it's an educated guess as far as what we have. And then the discussion will be, do we take in the full amount? Do we look for some sort of rebate program or something like that? To get some money back to people, I wouldn't mind a targeted rebate program. I keep harking on the homestead tax. You guys have heard that so many years of what. But again, pay attention here in the next couple of months. We'll be having additional opportunities for people to come out and talk about their budget priorities. Thank you, Kurt. I think we have about 600 petitions for increasing the budget for the library. So you've done a good job there as far as activating your base. Next Saturday at 9:30 at the Christian Faith Center is our district breakfast. We had hoped to have had the superintendent for the school district. Unfortunately, he cannot make this one, so he will be there in August, I believe. We're putting together that. So we have Amy Drop, okay, with the neighboring movement. She's been doing good work there. She's the interim chair, CEO,
Executive director.
executive director of the neighboring movement. So she will be talking about some grants that they will be putting out. I think $5,000 or so, smaller grants that.
They are neighborhood grants. It's called the Weaver Awards. They're meant to help with neighborhoods doing projects to improve their community.
The what awards?
The Weaver Awards. Yep. That's about as much as I know right now. We're all getting trained this week, so we will have an opportunity to hear from them like right as they're opening the application process.
You said that's Amy gonna do that?
So yeah, you can come out, learn. Maybe there's people in your neighborhood, maybe you want to put in for a grant. There will be an application process. But come out and again, even if you don't want to, come out and eat breakfast with us. It's always a good breakfast, right?
And when is that? This Saturday?
Next Saturday at 9:30 at the Christian Faith Center. And then the last issue, we've been mostly focused on budget here in the last couple of months, but we did take on back-end parking yesterday. We did repeal back-end parking for most spaces, with the exception of on-street parking. That doesn't make any sense to repeal that with on-street parking because you have so many angled spots. And then you pull across, you do like a 4-point turn in order to back into some of these angled spots and you're pulling out against traffic. So I did make that motion to do that. I think the parking garages, I was against it, and then hearing that we actually have license plate scanners for when you go in and out of the garages, that changed my mind on that one a little bit. There's a lot of reports out there that talk about improved safety as far as people out. I know at Clack Park, we did do a parking lot over there next to the school that is back-in parking only, so that way you can see if there are kids running in front of your car as you pull out. So I think the only major thing, I personally don't foresee people like going crazy and backing in now. I'm looking all over the place. I'm like, is that person trolling me? You know, just parking there in the parking garage like that. It still has to go through second reading. So next Tuesday would be when it would be on the books legal. I don't foresee any issues with that. But just FYI, that was the evening meeting. That was the one topic we talked about during the evening meeting. There are more important issues that I wish we would have talked about at these evening meetings, but this is one that the public has been upset about ever since tickets have been written. And this ordinance goes back to 2008, but there was actually another ordinance back in the mid-90s that was pretty much the same thing. People just never knew about it. I pulled through. I don't back in a lot, but I pull through. And I never knew about it until recently when Car Park started writing tickets to people who had backed into spots and they want to have that ease of access to the license plates. So there's give and take with it, but again, I think most people wanted to see that ordinance repealed, and it was repealed. So with that, Jerry, yep.
Is that gonna lead to add another license plate on the front of the vehicles?
That's a state issue. I did ask about that. I did pass that along to certain state representatives as well. I think with them, it's a cost issue because it would cost more to put one on the front.
You could make more too.
Yeah, 28 states actually have where it's required to have front and back license plates.
It's gonna look gorgeous on the front end of that Harley.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that they take action on that, but I wouldn't hold my. Any other questions?
I have a quick question about the new street improvements on Mount Vernon. They look great. They just paved while I was gone over the last 3 weeks. But the tree boxes have trees, then weeds, lots of tall weeds. And that doesn't look very good.
I think they're just giving some time for it to settle and get in before they get out there. But yeah, it'll be maintained just like the rest. And then also the striping will go down to a 3-lane. So it's currently, they have the temporary tags on there for 4-lane. They just didn't want anybody to not be used to it at this time. And So we want to wait until we actually get the striping. I've heard from
Yeah,
Mead and Meadowlark and Grandview.
I'm sure.
Yes,
Because it's, my worry is the dividers that they put in are ramps. Somebody hits that at a high speed, we're gonna have cars
Well,
flying
if
all
they hit a
over.
curb at a high speed, they're gonna do the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So at least if you don't hit it at a high speed, you're not gonna do as much damage as you would do with a normal curb.
we gotta protect the golf carts, John.
Wet leaves are like ice too.
For our neighborhood, they need to protect all the ATVs and the mini bikes and.
You're not lying. I swear, this year has been, like, I had maybe one complaint a year, 4 years ago. Now it's just, it's the number one. No, it's George.
Yeah,
Rich?
I'd like to make a comment after the fiasco of last month. I want everybody to stop and think, what is South Broadway doing? Nothing. We get businesses in there. The only thing down there is car stuff,
Rich,
and
I'm
I
gonna stop
agree.
you. This would have been a public agenda item. So next
Oh,
month,
shut up, but y'all need to think about that.
next month, if you would like to put that on the public agenda and come and we can ask. you.
Okay, I thought about it, but I didn't want to take up that time.
Or to speak when it's public agenda next time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well,
I have one item.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we this year moved to Teams and YouTube for our live stream and our public participation online. There is an ongoing issue live streaming right now. It exists. Even if we try to go back to Facebook, there's issues. I'll just show you really quickly what you're. So when we live stream to YouTube, it will continuously show the meeting hasn't started yet. It'll show one other person who's logged on, and then it will not show anything we share on the screen. Or if no one else logged on, it'll show the first thing we share and then nothing else. So they can't see any other presentation documents. It is happening across all DABs. We've tried doing like Ethernet connections. We've tried changing out the data cards that support our laptops. IT and comms cannot figure out a good way to do that. So for the time being, while they're resolving that, we are going to stop live streaming and be uploading the video afterwards to YouTube for someone who wants to watch it later. And then they'll still have the Teams option to log in if they just want to sit and watch it without saying anything, they can. But just so you're aware, if anyone's telling you like, hey, the YouTube was really messy, I can't figure out what's going on, that is unfortunately something we cannot figure out why it's happening across all of the different tabs.
I don't know if I can do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So,
tab 3.
So Becca, who was the girl that made the presentation about the homelessness last month?
Donna Castillo.
So, I just want to give a shout out to her. My wife and sister-in-law had a garage sale. And I told them, hey, this lady will come pick it all up. They got a hold of her on a Friday afternoon and she was there on Saturday and picked up everything and took it away. So if you need to do that, she's the one to call.
She's been great to work with as far as cleanups goes, and she really does care. So she's been great.
You have her contact information that I would like to get that.
Agreed.
All right, well, go Spurs go. I'll see you guys next month.
You're gonna have to take it back.
If not at the district breakfast, please come to the breakfast. If not, I will see you soon. Everybody be safe, be happy. There will be fireworks going off between now and then, so I look forward to hearing all those complaints.
Can we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Favor?
Hey.
Passes, thank you.
That's 31.